On the eve of Festivus, a Festivus for the rest of us. It is also the final Smackdown, the final WWE show before Christmas next week. We now know how WWE is going to decide on a challenger for Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. And it's exactly the idea that I floated here on the review last Friday. We are getting a triple threat match in 2 weeks on the New Year's Revolution episode of SmackDown, which is taking place on January 5th. It is going to be Randy Orton against AJ Styles against LA Knight. And the winner of that match will go on to the Royal Rumble to challenge Roman Reigns for the undisputed title. And, based on how the show went off the air tonight, I'm not so convinced that we should really be talking about whether or not it is going to be LA Knight or Randy Orton or AJ. Well, it's not going to be LA Knight. Really, whether it'll be Randy Orton or AJ Styles, because now they have me wondering if we may somehow, with some bloodline interference, laying them out or something, I don't know how they would go about doing it, but maybe in the end we actually end up with a four-way at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship. Maybe we end up getting all four men in the ring together. I mean, look, it would certainly be different than all of the other Roman Reigns matches that we usually get. When was the last time we saw Roman Reigns in a multi-man match? It's been a while. Was it WrestleMania 37? Has it really been that long? I don't know, but that was one idea that I had on the brain when the show went off the air tonight. We also had two more semifinal matches, actually the two semifinal matches in the United States Championship Tournament with Santos Escobar and Kevin Owens both advancing to the finals at New Year's Revolution on Fox in 2 weeks. And it's, of course, the winner will be challenging Logan Paul at the Royal Rumble, presumably, for the United States Championship. We also, though, in one of those matches tonight, had the return of Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. They have basically been on WWE excursion, if you want to look at it that way, down in NXT for many, many months, trying to reinvent themselves, trying to wash off the stink of Los Lotharios on the main roster where they did absolutely nothing with them. And so now they're getting a fresh start. We're getting Legado del Fantasma 2.0. They are now linked up with Santos Escobar. They helped him pick up a win over Bobby Lashley on this show. I like the idea. I mean, again, you still have Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro, but I mean, if they're going to feud them, that's certainly one way to go about doing it. I'm just glad to see Carrillo and Garza getting a second shot. This time under Triple H. He's trying something different. He brought them back. He obviously has plans for them. Good for them. They deserve another chance. They got shafted the first time. This will be good for them. And now we know what the finals are going to be in 2 weeks. And it looks like they will not be the only tag team back on the WWE main roster, because we had a hole, yes. We had a tease on this show, very quick vignette for Karrion Kross that teased the return of the Authors of Pain. Now, we know the Authors of Pain re-signed with WWE many, many months ago. There was talk that maybe they would reemerge on the NXT roster, and then nothing happened. But they're going to give it a go again with Karrion Kross, who is just dying for something to work here. I mean, they've tried, multiple times with this guy to try to get him over and try to get him going on that main roster, and it just hasn't worked. Maybe this time, if he's leading a faction of people, perhaps this time will be different. So not the only team with Garza and Carrillo that are on their way back here. And it looks like Damage Control may have some new foes to conquer before they eventually challenge for the women's tag team titles. We do, of course, have new women's tag team champions from Raw this past Monday night in Caden Carter and Katana Chance. Looks like the Kabuki Warriors are likely going to be the ones to take those titles away from them. But first, they're going to have to contend with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, who I guess got lost. Their GPS wasn't working. We haven't seen them in a very long time. They found their way back to SmackDown here tonight. It looks like they're going to be taking on the Kabuki Warriors very soon because they cost Damage Control their match on tonight's show. I will say, for a taped episode, here during the holiday season. A taped episode right before Christmas. This is a pretty newsworthy show. Nothing blowaway as far as the in-ring action is concerned, but I also wouldn't call it a throwaway show by any means. Now, so you know, Raw next week is going to be a best-of show on Monday. It's a clip show. They've given the talent off. They're not working again until Tuesday. They have a show at Madison Square Garden, which last I checked was up above 15,000 tickets sold for a house show at Madison Square Garden. Apparently, they moved in excess of 5,000 tickets in the aftermath of announcing that CM Punk would be returning on that show against Dominic Mysterio. Because it is going to be Punk's first match technically back in a WWE ring in almost 10 years. And so apparently they've moved over 5,000 tickets, which is even more than what John Cena was moving when he was working the house shows a few months ago. That's a big show coming up here. I'm not going to be there, but I'm going to be at the Iron Claw, actually, watching that movie. But that's coming up next Tuesday. That's when everybody is back on the road. So there's no new Raw episode next week, and apparently they're doing the same thing with SmackDown. I don't really know that they announced it. They certainly didn't announce a first run show for next week. So my guess is we're getting clip shows on Monday and Friday next week because they're actually running 2 house shows on Friday next week. They're running one house show in Las Vegas, and they're running another house show in Toronto. So they're coming back with the New Year's Revolution episode of SmackDown, and they have, of course, their New Year's episode of Raw. So those are the next big shows coming up. Now, before I get into anything here, before I get into SmackDown, there actually is some breaking news, and it has nothing to do with WWE. As I was getting ready to go live here, I did notice that New Japan Pro Wrestling made a very significant announcement just moments ago that Hiroshi Tanahashi, as of tomorrow, December 23rd, 2023, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace of New Japan, multiple-time IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, the heart and soul of New Japan, is going to become the president of New Japan. He is taking over. Takami Obari is stepping down or being removed. He is out as far as upper management is concerned, and Tanahashi is taking over. He will now be the new chief representative, the new president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they're going to be having a press conference on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. I believe that might be 1 o'clock Eastern time. I don't know what time zone, but they're having a press conference on Tuesday, so at that point we'll learn more information. But this is just breaking only minutes ago. And I saw even Shinsuke Nakamura tweeted simply one word, wow. So this seems to have caught a lot of people by surprise. Very interested to find out why they are making this move now. Again, we don't have much in the way of details, but it's right there on the New Japan website. After a meeting of their board of directors and shareholders today, the following personnel change has been made in management. And it says, reason for personnel change, alterations to management structure. And the president will be Hiroshi Tanahashi. The director will be Hitoshi Matsumoto. The chief of business production for TV Asahi. And then they list out some other positions as well here. Effective December 23rd, Takami Obari and Michiaki Nishizawa will step down from their positions as president and director, respectively. And very interesting here, it gives in the bio for Tanahashi, and I was not aware of this, that Tanahashi graduated with a law degree. I did not know that. It says he graduated in law at Ritsumeikan University and joined New Japan in 1999. So how about that? And it's not 1 p.m. Eastern. It's 1 p.m. Local time in Japan. That's on Tuesday when they're having the press conference. So this is going to be very interesting to find out the nuts and bolts of what happened here. But again, that is breaking as we were going live here on the stream tonight. So if we get any more information before I go off the air, I will let you guys know. But this is your SmackDown review for Friday, December 22nd, 2023. I am the Solomonster. Like and subscribe. We are trying to hit 400 likes to hit our goal tonight for Be the Booker. It seems like a quiet night. Not surprising given the time of year. Hopefully we'll be able to hit that goal, though. Super chats are open. Hey, shout out to Jamie Dorsch, wherever you may be. He gifted 10 memberships earlier tonight. So, Jamie, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you. And real quick, if you missed it, there is a special interview up here on the channel. Myself and the AEW World Champion, MJF. We made some news this week. So go check that interview out. It is up on the channel. And thank you for all of the feedback to it so far. So here on SmackDown tonight, they opened the way that they should have. They opened with AJ Styles, who made his return to the show last week. He was dressed in black jeans. He had a new attitude about him, and he laid out LA Knight and then walked right past the Bloodline and left the building last week. And that is how they went off the air. So they opened the show this week with AJ coming down to the ring all by himself, dressed again in all black. He said Randy Orton wants Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. Says LA Knight wants Roman Reigns. Anytime, any place. He said anywhere, which is kind of redundant because that's what any place means. And he doesn't blame either one of them. And he doesn't give a damn about Randy Orton or LA Knight. He says, understand this. I am number one when it comes to getting my hands on Roman Reigns. He wants Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. So LA Knight's music interrupted, and he walked out with a mic in hand, and he said that he is not going to argue with him about who gets Roman Reigns first because there's nothing to argue about. After what happened to him at Crown Jewel, you know what? You can have Roman Reigns, he said, after I get him first. But considering what happened last week, the first one on his list could be AJ Styles. Styles said, oh, how you forget how LA Knight stepped over his dead body to team with John Cena, that was back at Fastlane, and then get his title match with Roman at Crown Jewel. At that point, Knight climbed into the ring. AJ told him that if you or anybody else gets in my way, I'm going to drop you too. And at that point, Randy Orton's music interrupted, and he walked out with a mic, because why not? Why not have him join the party as well? He said he could appreciate both men and their issues with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, but Roman and the Bloodline put him on the shelf for 18 years, or 18 months. Wow. That must have been a hell of a backstage attack. I'll tell you what, though, man. I thought what happened to AJ 3 months ago was bad when they laid him out. 18 years. That's almost as long as Stone Cold went without a match, from WrestleMania 19 to WrestleMania 38. Man, that must have been a hell of a fucking attack by the Bloodline. Holy shit. He said Roman Reigns and the Bloodline put him on the shelf for 18 months. He enjoys being at home, but he was missing his second home, which is right here in this ring. Nothing is going to get in his way. So at this point now, we had all three men in the ring. Knight cut him off, though, and said, wait, hold on a second here. The Bloodline took out Randy Orton. The Bloodline took out AJ Styles. You know who the Bloodline didn't take out? Me. He's still standing, he said, because I'm bulletproof. So Nick Aldis walked out, interrupted. It's the night of interruptions here. He said the way he sees it, each man has a legitimate claim to face Roman Reigns. So he's going to give them a legitimate opportunity to face Roman Reigns next. In 2 weeks, they present a special New Year's Revolution episode of SmackDown. And at that event, it will be AJ Styles versus LA Knight versus Randy Orton in a triple threat match. The winner will get Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. AJ said, fine, whatever it takes to get to Roman. He'll see them both at New Year's Revolution. And he also said in his match later tonight with Solo Sikoa, if anybody gets close to the ring, he'll take them out too. So, 2 things here. My guess last week about why AJ attacked LA Knight, that was the big cliffhanger at the end of the show. Why AJ? Why did he do what he did? Was exactly what they said here in this promo, which is the fact that he got taken out, and who stepped in his place to tag with John Cena at Fastlane against Jimmy and Solo? Who took his place, effectively challenging Roman Reigns? That would have been AJ Styles' spot, and instead it was LA Knight who stepped in, and he got the championship match instead. He basically stole AJ's opportunity away from him. So that's exactly what I figured it would be. It's the only thing that made sense, which in a way it doesn't make sense because why is that LA Knight's fault, right? I mean, AJ got taken out. It sucks for you, but, right, when one man gets taken out, it opens an opportunity for someone else. AJ apparently is having a case of sour grapes here. But this is not a heel turn. Some people were calling it the AJ Styles heel turn last week, which I didn't do because I didn't see it as a heel turn. It's an attitude adjustment, right? It's a change in his attitude. You could argue maybe he's playing more of a tweener role, but it was not a heel turn. Just because he had an issue with LA Knight doesn't mean that all of a sudden AJ Styles is a heel. If AJ Styles wants a match with Roman Reigns, if he's going to have a match with Roman Reigns, then he needs to be a babyface still because he will be the de facto babyface anyway when he steps in the ring with Roman Reigns. You can't turn him heel before he gets that match with Roman. Doesn't make any sense. Now, the other thing is, and by the way, I mean, he may get that match before Randy Orton does. Again, it could go either way. It almost doesn't even matter. If Roman is going to have two matches, it doesn't matter who goes first. The other thing, though, is Orton did not look thrilled when Nick Aldis came out and he made the announcement about the triple threat. And so that is something to keep an eye on. And it was 2 weeks ago, right here on this stream, we had a super chat come in and somebody floated the idea, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Could it be Randy Orton against Nick Aldis as the WrestleMania match? Because when Orton met with him in his office to hand him his check for the fine, the $50,000 fine, he gave him a check for $100,000. And Aldis said, you know, your fine was only for $50K. What's this for? And Orton made a comment about, well, that's for next time. And so that little tease right there, it could have just been a humorous line, or it could be representative of something more. Like, we know Nick Aldis wants to wrestle, right? He's not that old. Was he 36 years old? He's always wanted to wrestle in WWE. Okay, that's what he's always wanted. And there was no interest for quite some time. And I know that was very bothersome for him. And now this opportunity came up for him to come in and be the general manager. And I think so far he's knocked it out of the park. He's been a great GM so far. He's very, very good in the role. I guarantee you that is not the long-term role that he wants to be in. So the idea may be that this was their way of introducing him because most WWE fans don't know who Nick Aldis is. You think most WWE fans were watching when he was Magnus, Brutus Magnus in Impact? You think they were watching him when he was walking around with the NWA World's Heavyweight title on Power? Really? Yeah, no, they weren't. This was their way of introducing him to the main roster and the WWE audience. And at some point next year, it's logical to think that he would transition into a wrestling role. And maybe it's only a one-off. Maybe he's not going to be full-time, but I look ahead and I try to, in my brain, come up with, well, who would Randy Orton's WrestleMania opponent be? Because he's not winning the championship from Roman Reigns, right? We know that. It's not going to be in the main event of WrestleMania. He's not winning the Royal Rumble. So what do you have Randy Orton do, right? You got to have him in a prime spot at WrestleMania. Guy's been on the shelf for 18 months, right? You got to get him involved in something good. A program and a match with Nick Aldis? I'd be interested in seeing that. There aren't very many good options. Logan Paul at some point would be a great opponent for him, but Logan Paul, I think, is going to be occupied by LA Knight. That's for the U.S. title. So what does that leave you with? AJ? Yeah, we've seen that before. Bobby Lashley? Maybe Kevin Owens. Maybe they go to Orton and Owens, right? There's a few options, but to me, the Aldis one is going to be one to keep an eye on. I definitely think that's a possibility. Now we had an 8-woman Holiday Havoc tag team match with Bianca Belair, Shotzi, Michin, and Zelina Vega taking on Damage Control. Everybody brawled on the floor. Things settled down. The match focused on Io and Bianca for a while. Bayley interrupted, and Shotzi came in to even the odds. And Shotzi unwrapped a chair as a Christmas gift. And the crowd got excited. Shotzi used the chair as a springboard and hit a senton across Bayley's back. Then Shotzi got an assist from Michin, and she dove through the ropes onto Bayley and Io at ringside. Asuka and Kairi, they got involved with kendo sticks, and so Bianca and Shotzi, they returned fire with kendo sticks of their own. And my God, Shotzi almost killed Asuka with a kendo stick shot that connected a little too well to the back of the skull. And Asuka, she grabbed the back of her head and she slowly just kind of crumbled to the mat. My goodness, did she crack her in the back of the fucking head with this kendo stick? Obviously by mistake. Outside, Bianca and Shotzi, they got a table, but Bayley and Io stole it from them, and they used it on them as a weapon to knock them down. As Damage Control started dancing a jig with the table over their head, Io looked like a member of the Rockettes out there as they went to commercial. Zelina Vega delivered a DDT to Io on the floor after the break. Michin hit a powerbomb to Asuka inside, but Io took her out immediately after with a missile dropkick. She covered her. Bianca broke up the pin. Bianca then sent Bayley out to the floor and put a gift box over Io's head so she couldn't see where she was. Then she picked up Io on her shoulders, Doomsday Device style, and Shotzi hit a drop kick. She drop kicked Io off of Bianca's shoulders. Meanwhile, on the floor, Kairi Sane unwrapped another gift, and this time it was a trash can lid, which is a pretty shitty Christmas gift, I have to say. I mean, imagining on Christmas morning, imagine if you would. On Christmas morning, you're all excited, right? You wake up early in the morning, you go down to the tree, you see a gift under the tree, you open it, you're waiting for a PS5, and it's a trash can lid, right? That would be a pretty shitty gift. So what happened here? Kairi did like the spinning back fist motion with the trash can lid and just blasted Shotzi in the face with it. That was a receipt, is what that was. I don't know if it was intended to be. I'm just saying, though, for what happened to Asuka, that was a receipt for Shotzi. So now they're even. Zelina took out Kairi with a chair shot to the back. Asuka smashed a pumpkin pie into Vega's face, and then she sprayed her with the mist, blinded her. In the ring, Bayley had control over Bianca. Asuka and Kairi, they joined in, and then they went outside. They unwrapped some gifts that were in the aisleway, outside the ring on the floor. And as they went over to open the gifts, Isla Dawn popped out of one of the boxes. And on the other side of the aisle, Alba Fire popped out of the other. And they grabbed a hold of Asuka and Kairi, and they attacked them. They beat them up. Meanwhile, in the ring, Bianca hit the KOD on Bayley. Io followed with her moonsault immediately after, so she came crashing down on top of Bianca. But Michin broke up the pinfall. And then Michin hit Eat Defeat on Io, and then she placed Io on the table that was in the ring. And she went up to the top rope, and Michin came crashing through the table onto Io, and she got the pin on Io Sky to win the match for the babyface team. Michin pins the WWE Women's Champion. I'll tell you what, though, it's nice to see Mia Yim get some love. She has been such an afterthought. She has been relegated as just background fodder in the women's division when she actually does get to appear on television, which is not very often. So it was nice to see somebody else get some shine for a change. And what that does now is it sets, and before they even announced it, I figured this is exactly where they were going, because otherwise this doesn't make any sense. Why would you have her be the one to pin Io Sky? This is an 8-woman tag. She could have pinned anybody in this match. She could have pinned Bayley. She could have pinned Kairi. She pinned Io. Why? Because they're setting up a women's title match for New Year's Revolution. And we did, in fact, get the announcement later in the show that it's going to be Io Sky defending her championship on January 5th against Michin. So that match is now official. So we have Rhea Ripley defending her title on Raw against Ivy Nile on New Year's Day. And on SmackDown, we have Io putting her belt on the line against Michin. So two people who we have not seen in women's title matches on the main roster are getting title shots the first week of 2024. And I think that's fine. We also have not seen Alba Fire and Isla Dawn for quite a while. and they disappeared. I think they've done a handful of vignettes on television that did not go anywhere. They've probably been forgotten by most people at this point. Really, we have not seen them since they dropped their NXT Women's Tag Team titles to Ronda and Shayna, and they merged the titles together. And they have pretty much disappeared off the face of the earth ever since then. So now we have them back here, and I guess, as I look at this will be something for the Kabuki Warriors to occupy their time with, and they'll beat Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, because the direction here, I believe, is to get the women's tag team titles on Kairi and Asuka. We just had new women's tag team champions crowned on Monday night. It's a great moment for Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. They had tears in their eyes. They were so happy, right, to become champions on the main roster. They were already women's tag champs in NXT. And they're a very good tag team, and I'm very happy for them. But that feels to me like a transitional spot. They got the titles off of Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. They got the belts on them, and the belts very soon are going to end up on Asuka and Kairi so they can bring more gold into Damage Control. Really, to where Bayley will be the only one who doesn't have a championship. Io has her title. Asuka and Kairi will have gold. Dakota's not cleared yet. That leaves Bayley. Bayley's goal, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. And I'm going to challenge Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, and then we'll have all the gold. We'll have both women's titles. We'll have the women's tag team titles, and Damage Control will be number one. So I don't think Katana Chance and Kaden Carter should get too comfortable with those women's tag team titles. But you look now, all of a sudden, right? And I've been a very big critic of the women's tag team division because it doesn't exist. There really has not been a women's tag team division. They will have some women's tag team matches, but there really is no women's tag team division. But now, all of a sudden, it looks like Triple H is putting in the effort to try to create some semblance of an actual tag team division for the women. The Kabuki Warriors are back together. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, they're the new tag team champions. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are back. You've got Candice and Indy on Raw. You've got Natty and Tegan on Raw. Right? Even Mia and Zelina, they're not really a team, but it kind of, we've seen them team up before. They're not like a permanent team. They could make them one if they wanted to, though. And you have Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, who have come together as a team. Now it looks like we have some semblance of an actual women's tag team division. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we are at least heading in the right direction. Whereas before, there was nothing. There was a huge void. Now at least there's something heading into 2024. We go to the Bloodline locker room in the back. Jimmy Uso is pumping up Solo Sikoa for his match later with AJ Styles. Solo seemed nonplussed by the whole thing. Roman Reigns was sitting on the couch, and he asked Paul Heyman, who is this new SmackDown general manager? And Heyman said his name is Aldis. Nick Aldis. And Roman told Heyman, bring him to me. The only way you can get Roman Reigns on back-to-back episodes of SmackDown these days is to tape the show. That's the only reason we had Roman on 2 shows. They didn't even announce that Roman was going to be on the show. They just happened to still have him in the building, and they're like, all right, we'll use him. But they didn't actually have a segment for him. Because usually it's a big deal. When they get Roman to show up, they announce it, right? It's the return of Roman Reigns. I would love to know how many thumbnails I have done this year that had the return of Roman Reigns, or Roman Reigns returns, or Roman Reigns comes back to work, some variation of that, right? There had to have been like half a dozen of them over the course of the year. Up next, it was Dragon Lee against Butch for the NXT North American Championship. Butch was working over the arms and fingers of Dragon Lee. Butch ended up outside. Lee went for a dive. Butch cut him off with a kick and a suplex on the apron. Show went to commercial. Butch went back to working over the fingers and the arm, and he stomped on Dragon Lee's hands. Lee, though, hit a leaping Frankensteiner that took Butch out to the floor. Back inside, Butch was in the corner, and Lee hit a running drop kick. Dragon Lee went for a power bomb. Butch, though, countered with a tiger bomb for a near fall. The two of them were on their knees. They were trading chops. Then they traded snap Germans. Butch lifted up Dragon Lee. Lee, though, got out of it, hit a sit-out powerbomb for a good near fall. Butch went to the top. Lee cut him off, and then Butch got hung upside down in a tree of woe. Lee went to the top. Butch, though, he reached up and he snapped Dragon Lee's finger. This did not stop Dragon Lee, though, from following through on the double stomp, which connected. And Lee then charged at Butch. Butch countered with a bitter end attempt until Dragon Lee countered that into a destroyer. And Lee then hit his Operation Dragon finish, which is Naito's Destino, and he picked up the win. And when the match was over, two men shook hands. Obviously, Pete Dunne was, or Butch, I'm sorry. Butch was very disappointed, but they shook hands when the match was over. Now, I should say that later in the show, there was another segment where Butch was walking in the back. Kathy Kelly came up to him to get some comments, and Pretty Deadly walked up. They started singing a Christmas song, and they just generally annoyed him. And so Butch started fighting them. Officials came over to break it up. Nick Aldis came over and said, look, we don't do that here in the back. You want to do it, you could do it out there in the ring. And I'll tell you what, in 2 weeks, New Year's Revolution, you find yourself a tag team partner, and you could get Pretty Deadly. And that makes me think that we're about to get Sheamus back on television. Because Sheamus, I believe, he may already be wrestling at the house shows. If not, I believe he is scheduled to be. So if he's not already back at the live events, he will be shortly. He's had a shoulder injury that he's been out with for a while. So let's back it up here. Dragon Lee continues to impress. Triple H obviously likes the guy a lot. He's been protecting him. He's been pushing him very hard. He's not supposed to be the North American champion right now, but Wes Lee unfortunately went down with a back injury. He's going to be out for up to a year. And so Dragon Lee was the substitute at the NXT Deadline show, and they put the North American title on him. So now the North American title is right back in the same position that it was in before when it was on Dominic Mysterio, where it's being held by a main roster talent and being defended on SmackDown and on Raw, right? It's in the same spot that it was in before. They're going to have to get that belt on an NXT talent soon. But he went out there and these two had a very good match. And I'll tell you, Butch, not a bad dance partner to have in the ring. And you got to wonder what 2024 is going to hold for our friend Butch. Because if I'm looking ahead and I'm booking in 2024 for this man, the first thing that you do is you get rid of the name. You give the man his name back. You give him back his identity, okay? He's no longer Butch. He's Pete Dunne. Now, I don't know what's going to go down in that match on New Year's Revolution. Part of me looks at this and goes, we're right back to where we were 2 months ago. How many times did we see Pretty Deadly in the Brawling Brutes? Only now it's probably going to be Pete Dunne and Sheamus as opposed to Pete Dunne and Ridge Holland, because Ridge Holland just had a match with Ilya Dragunov. They did this whole injury angle on NXT. He's back down for the time being in NXT. So now it's just a different partner, but once again, it's the Brawling Brutes against Pretty Deadly. Are we creatively bankrupt here? Do we really have nothing else for these men to be doing? Makes me wonder if we're going to get that match, and maybe Butch is going to turn on Sheamus, because he's not been having a lot of luck. He's been losing matches. He lost another one tonight. And at some point, kind of like him with the joint manipulation, everybody snaps, including Pete Dunne. And so maybe that's what happens. Maybe the WrestleMania match is going to be Sheamus against Pete Dunne. But I think the first order of business is to change the name. I think a heel turn and a name change go hand in hand. It doesn't matter what order it happens in. But I think that should be next up on the agenda for Butch. And look, not only would I love to see him revert back to Pete Dunne, I would love to see him revert back to the Pete Dunne that we saw when he first came to WWE. And if you were watching NXT at that time, you remember the little feud, the little mini feud between Pete Dunne and William Regal. It just so happens that William Regal is probably going to be allowed to appear again on WWE television any week now. Right? If not already, he may already be cleared, and they just don't have anything, for him as far as a television role. because the general manager positions have already been filled. I don't know that he's going to be managing somebody. Like, how do you use William Regal? It is a shame not to use him on television in some way because he is such a great TV character. But I would love if they could figure out a way to maybe recreate that in some way. Or if we get Pete Dunne, right, back as a heel, and maybe, look, if there ends up being some kind of a vacancy even in the GM spot on SmackDown, we were just talking about Orton and Nick Aldis, right? 2 weeks ago, we were talking about it earlier as well. Look, you never know, right? You never know when there may be a vacancy in one of those two general manager positions. But I would love it if at some point next year we could actually recreate that on the main roster. With heel Pete Dunne making William Regal's life a living hell, right? Regal can't wrestle, but just to get some interaction with them on TV, I would love to see that again. If they could figure out a way to make that happen, I would love to see that. Or you know what? Just had another thought. I kind of dismissed the idea of Regal as a manager just because I don't really see it. If he was going to manage somebody, though, I could see it being Pete Dunne. How about William Regal as a heel manager for Pete Dunne? What do you think about that? Because there may not be a vacancy in the GM spot. So you got to figure out a different way to get the two of them together in some way. I could see that. I could see Regal as a manager coming out with Pete Dunne. Paul Heyman, back in the Bloodline locker room, introduced Roman Reigns to the SmackDown general manager, the aforementioned Nick Aldis. And Roman told Heyman to leave, so he did. And Aldis took a seat on the couch next to Roman, who said, "You booked the triple threat match?" And Aldis said, "I did." He said, "You booked Solo tonight against AJ?" He said, "I did." Roman said, "Those were great ideas. You know what would have been a better idea? If you would have run them by me first." He says, "Adam Pearce would have done that." So Aldis said, Pearce was more of a middle management type. He said, "I'm the general manager. The buck stops with me. I'm the sharp end of the stick here on SmackDown. As for Solo, he's a big boy. He took care of John Cena in a way that I don't even remember you taking care of John Cena." So he said he's looking forward to that, and he's looking forward to that triple threat match in 2 weeks, and he's looking forward to seeing the winner of that triple threat match face Roman at the Royal Rumble for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. But he appreciates the invitation here to the locker room. He looks forward to more productive dialogue, and he really hopes they get to know each other better. And with that, Aldis walked out, and Roman was left steaming mad on the couch. Right, when was the last time we saw anyone in WWE management speak to Roman Reigns in that way? Finally, it's about time. It's about time that these authority figures on TV are allowed to flex their muscle and show some spine. Because for so long, they weren't allowed to do that. Now they are. Adam Pearce also on Raw. It's nice. It's a nice change of pace. Kevin Owens against Carmelo Hayes in a semifinal match in the United States Championship Tournament. Again, this is to crown a number one contender for Logan Paul, presumably at the Rumble. Last week, we had Carmelo Hayes making his main roster debut. He was in an opening round match against Grayson Waller, and he looked great. Not only did he look great, he won, and he won decisively with his finish. No fluky win. So he moves on to the semis here against Kevin Owens. I've been looking forward to this match all week. Hayes tried to work on Owens' broken hand early. That's still the story of this tournament, Owens and his broken hand. Owens hit a senton. Hayes, though, came back with a springboard clothesline. The action spilled outside. Owens threw Hayes into the ring steps, and the show went to a commercial. Back from the break, Hayes hit a step-up enziguri and an axe kick for a 2 count. And Mello went for a suplex, but Owens fought his way out of it until Hayes hit a facebuster for a 2 count. Owens draped Hayes' legs on the top rope in the corner, and he dropped him with a spike DDT, and I do mean spike. Even the announcers, even Corey Graves on commentary flipped out. They showed a replay of it. This looked deadly. I mean, he just dropped him straight down. Sounded great, looked great. Only got an ear fall out of it. Owens went for a pop-up power bomb. Hayes, though, countered and went to the top for his nothing but net. Owens, though, avoided it, and he got his pop-up power bomb. He followed that with a swanton bomb off the top, and then he hit the stunner for the win. He had to use all of his moves, not just one, not just two, three of his signature moves he had to use. But he got the job done, and Kevin Owens advances to the finals. So when the match was over, Owens went to leave, and he stopped himself, and he was like, ah. He went back, put his hand out, helped Carmelo Hayes to his feet, and he showed the man respect, and then he left the ring. This is a good match. Maybe a little underwhelming. I would have liked to have seen them go a little bit longer. Now, the deeper you go into a tournament, you have your opening round matches. You only have 2 semifinal matches. And they don't, back in the day when they would have a tournament, they would announce time limits, right? They used to do that for the old King of the Ring tournaments. And they don't even do that anymore. It's not like, each semifinal round match has a 30-minute time. Like, they don't do that anymore. It's not like the Continental Classic right now that's ongoing in AEW. But in the semifinal matches, it would have been nice to give them a little bit of extra time here. Instead of 10 minutes, give them 15 minutes. Or if they were going 15 in the opening round, give these guys 20. Because these two, you give these guys 15 or 20 minutes. These two are going to go out there and they're going to deliver a very good match. Not like WWE does not do 20-minute matches. We've seen Gunther and the Judgment Day, right, have plenty of 20-minute matches on television. That's not what this was, so that was a little disappointing. But the action was good. I thought Hayes looked good. I don't know that he is permanently up on SmackDown or if he's just going to go right back to NXT because he's not done in NXT. There's still an ongoing angle going on with Trick Williams. I still think that's probably the WrestleMania weekend match at Stand and Deliver is Melo and Trick. So I don't think he's on SmackDown full-time. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe he's in the Royal Rumble. I could see Carmelo Hayes popping up in the Rumble. But I think if this is it for now for him, I thought he acquitted himself very well. And I think when the time comes that he gets called up full-time, I think he's going to do perfectly fine. He's going to be just fine. Even though I do think Trick Williams has a taller ceiling than he does. AJ Styles was shown in the back when Michin walked up to him and gave him a big ol' hug. She was very happy to see AJ back. Gallows and Anderson asked AJ if he was good. We didn't even know you were coming back. We haven't spoken to you. We haven't heard from you. Are we good? AJ slowly pushed Michin away, and then he looked at Gallows and Anderson, and he said, I don't know, are we? And then he walked off. AJ Styles is going through his teenage angst phase, it looks like. Dressing in all black, acting like a dick. He's going through his teenage angst phase at the age of 45. What is he, 45, 46? Then we had a Karrion Kross vignette. This was actually kind of interesting. He warned the Bloodline their implosion was imminent. And then they showed highlights of some of the events that have played out this year with the Bloodline. He said he made Drew McIntyre spiral out of control. Because Drew beat him, but then they showed highlights from recent episodes of Drew losing his mind and the slow progression of the Drew McIntyre heel turn. He said he messed with Rey Mysterio so much that he hit his own son in front of his family. And he took away Shinsuke Nakamura's honor, leading to him misting people. So there's another example of somebody who worked, I can't call it a program. I think they had one match, right? They had one match on TV. And Nakamura beat him. And now look what happened to Nakamura. Nakamura now is a heel. His whole character has changed. He's got this dark persona now. He's going around misting Cody Rhodes and misting Seth Rollins and everybody. So what they're doing here is they're going with the idea that everybody Karrion Kross has stepped into the ring and either wrestled or feuded with has been corrupted. Either because it's just something that he predicted would happen or just, I guess, by virtue of, working with him. All of these people have been corrupted and have been forced to change in some way, which is kind of an interesting way to go. I would counter that by saying, yeah, okay, that may be true. All of these people may have been baby faces and now they're heels, or whatever the case may be, but he still lost every single one of those fucking matches, right? So it's not like, oh, that's makes Karrion Kross really cool. No, he's still a fucking loser. But it is an interesting way to go about looking at things. But there is hope yet. He said, even the greatest proclamation is soon to be forgotten without a scribe, without authors. And Scarlett, you can hear Scarlett say, do you see the vision? Paul Ellering is the scribe, and the authors that he was referring to are AOP. Now, if you really paid close attention to the vignette, it was brief, but you could see Paul Ellering's hands. They were like together like this. Clearly Ellering's hands. There was maybe even a shadowy outline of his head. And then as far as the authors of pain, you never saw their face, but you saw these two big bodies, these two big shadowy figures. Clearly it was AOP. And so now we wait and see if this time is going to be different for Karrion Kross. Everything else they've tried with him on the main roster over the last year and a half has been a failure. Karrion Kross so far on the main roster has been a failure. Okay, you have to admit that. Now they're going to try something a little bit different. I don't know. I guess he'll be the leader, but it looks like there's going to be a faction led by Karrion Kross, Scarlett. You'll have AOP and Paul Ellering all together. I don't know if the idea is that they'll be sort of watching his back, or again, it's just something where he's leading them. We'll have to see how it plays out. I am intrigued. I don't know that AOP has stepped up their game as far as in-ring is concerned, because I don't think they've really been working much since they left WWE. It's kind of like I thought the same thing about the Von Erichs. Kevin Von Erich's kids. They had a run there for a while in MLW. And from what I saw of them, they were decent. I mean, they didn't strike me as anything special. And then they left MLW, and they've what have they wrestled? Maybe 2 matches independently in the last year and a half. And now it looks like Tony Khan might sign them. He might do something with them, maybe in Ring of Honor, which I think is fine. But, I don't know as far as when the bell rings, if AOP are going to look any different than they looked the last time we saw them. So we'll see as far as that goes. But Karrion Kross, he needs something. This is something different. And I'm willing to let it play out and see how it goes. He's still playing the same character, though. The same kind of dark character, the tarot cards and all that. I felt like he just needed a complete character overhaul. But we'll see if this works. We had our second semifinal match in the U.S. title tournament with Bobby Lashley one-on-one against Santos Escobar. Pretty weak match, but it was less about the match and more about the end of the match and how Santos Escobar won the match. Lashley was dominant. He hit a belly-to-belly suplex and sent Escobar flying halfway across the ring. Lashley threw Escobar around a little bit. He tossed him over the top to the floor. That took us into a commercial break. Back from the break, Escobar dove onto Lashley on the floor. And then he started working over Lashley's leg. That became the story of the match. Lashley had the bum wheel. He was limping around. Escobar hit a pair of double knees. Then he placed Lashley on the top rope. He climbed up with him, and Lashley got mad. And there was a kind of a tight shot where Lashley is just staring him dead in his eyes. His eyes look like they're about to pop out of his head. And he throws Escobar backwards off the top, and Escobar ended up doing a belly flop. Lashley climbed down. He was selling the bad leg. Hit a face buster, though. All of a sudden, somebody appeared at ringside, some random person wearing a lucha mask, and security went after them. On commentary, they weren't sure if it was a fan. Security was taking the person away, when all of a sudden, another masked man appears. And now they're going after the Street Profits outside the ring. Escobar rolled up a distracted Lashley, held the tights, and he got the pin. So Santos Escobar advances to the finals of the tournament. After the match, the masked men pulled off their masks to reveal Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza. And Santos Escobar, he's looking at Lashley. in the aisleway, but he's looking at Lashley in the ring and saying that he's got backup once again. So Escobar is no longer alone. This is, call him Legado 2.0 if you want, but he's got some new backup. They tried to protect Lashley here with the leg injury and the fact that Escobar, you had the distraction finish and the roll-up with the tights. I mean, they did everything here to try to protect Lashley, even though they knew he was losing. The match itself was nothing special. The story here is Angel and Humberto getting a second chance at life here on the main roster. They really were severely misused the first time. It's ridiculous to think back at how they were being used. They're a very good team. And I don't know what it was. Well, probably Vince McMahon, right? Because he was still running the show. Well, now there's a new sheriff in town. And his name is Triple H. And Triple H happens to be a fan of Angel and Humberto. And so we're going to see how Triple H books them as compared to the way Vince McMahon was booking them previously on the main roster. But they deserve a shot. They got jobbed last time. And I hope this time that they're able to actually get a decent run for themselves. Linked up with Escobar, I think they will. So I am all for the move. I guess they'll probably end up working a lot with Cruz del Toro. And Joaquin Wilde would be my guess. But it's good. It's good to have them back on the main roster. And also, it's another team. It's another team to get back in the tag team division on Raw and SmackDown, which is a good thing. Then we had a Logan Paul vignette. And he said that he thought this tournament, when this whole tournament began, he thought that it would lead him to face the best that WWE had to offer. But instead, it's between a guy who cried over Rey Mysterio and a guy who won't take his shirt off in the pool. He goes, "Are you serious?" Santos said, "You're not even in my league, brother." And Kevin, you literally look like if Reddit was a person. Let's be honest with ourselves, boys. You're both battling to find out who's going to get pinned by the greatest and most relevant United States champion of all time. So enjoy this temporary clout because that's all you will be getting from me. This was a highly produced and well-edited vignette. You know, at one point, while we could hear the narration from Logan, he was posing, he was mugging for the camera with his title. All that to say, are we supposed to believe that Logan Paul was doing this live from the back, that he already knew that Escobar had won his match just a few moments ago, and that Kevin Owens had won his match earlier in the night? Is that what they expected us to believe, that this was done live? It's kind of ridiculous. It's an odd choice. Main event was AJ Styles in his black jeans, one-on-one with Solo Sikoa. Styles dumped Solo to the floor. He hit a springboard forearm over the top rope to the floor, and that took us into the final commercial break of the show. After the break, Solo hit a high back body drop on Styles. Got him way up in the air, and Styles landed right on his hip. Then he tossed him back first into the ring post. He went underneath. He went sliding underneath where he struck the ring post. Solo hit a hip attack. He climbed to the middle rope. He dove for a headbutt. Styles, though, moved out of the way. AJ landed a sliding forearm and a springboard moonsault for a near fall. And Solo popped Styles up into the air, and he hit a Samoan drop. Styles came back with a Pele kick and followed with a phenomenal forearm attempt, but Solo was able to avoid it, and he went for the Samoan spike. AJ ducked it and rolled him up for two, and then he attempted the Styles clash, but Solo powered out of it. Styles finally did connect with the phenomenal forearm, and Solo Sikoa, with presence of mind, slowly rolls under the bottom rope and out to the floor, just as Roman Reigns hits the ring, and he attacks AJ Styles for the disqualification. Roman picked him back up. He put him on his shoulders. AJ, though, wiggled his way out and connected with an enziguri. Solo got back inside and pummeled Styles, so we had a double team going on. Randy Orton's music hit. He jogged leisurely down to the ring to attack the Bloodline. Jimmy Uso showed up, though, and all three of them ended up overwhelming Orton. That brought out LA Knight to fight off the Bloodline. Orton sent Jimmy to the outside on one side of the ring. Knight got rid of Solo on the other side of the ring. Reigns bailed. AJ then got up in Orton's face. He got up in LA Knight's face. He told them He didn't want them out there. And then he nailed LA Knight. And then he nailed Randy Orton. LA Knight went after AJ. Orton tried to intervene. Knight shoved him off. So now we had LA Knight and Randy Orton going at it. And Knight was stomping a mud hole in him in the corner until AJ attacked. And the brawl continued with all three as the show went off the air. So we opened the show with the baby faces bitching at each other. And we closed the show with the baby faces beating each other up. So in the end, Roman Reigns wins. Very good. So now we have a triple threat match on SmackDown in 2 weeks. If I had to venture a guess, if we're going to have a decisive winner, because I do think that there is a distinct possibility that they do a finish of some kind that ends up with Nick Aldis going, enough. Roman, maybe there's a bloodline beatdown put on all three of these men. Because you can't have a disqualification in a triple threat match. It's not like the bloodline is just going to run in and the referee's going to call for the bell. But if they do some kind of an angle where you have Roman and you have Jimmy and you have Solo and they're taking out all three of them, you could have Nick Aldis come out because we didn't get a decisive winner and say, Roman, you think you're smart. I make the rules around here. And he makes it a fatal four-way. He goes, now you're going to have to wrestle all three of them and put your title on the line at the Royal Rumble. There's a very good possibility that we end up with a four-way match. If, however, we get a decisive winner, it really could go either way. It all depends on whether or not Roman Reigns is going to wrestle at Elimination Chamber. He did this year. Roman defended the title against Kevin Owens in January. He defended the title against Sami Zayn in February. If he does the same this year, it doesn't matter what order they do it in. You could have Orton go first and then AJ. You could have AJ go first and then Orton. Roman is not advertised right now for the Elimination Chamber. As of this moment, he is not scheduled to be on that pay-per-view in Perth. So if they're only going to do one match, it's also what makes me think it could be a four-way. But if they're only doing one, and it's going to be a singles match, it's going to be Randy Orton. It's not going to be AJ Styles. And maybe then, especially if Roman is not working the Elimination Chamber, it makes it more likely that the Chamber match itself could be to determine who Roman's challenger is going to be at WrestleMania. And it kind of goes back to the idea that we were discussing on the show a few weeks ago, where it could be a cross-branded Elimination Chamber match made up of not all, but a number of people that have previously lost to Roman Reigns or been wronged by the bloodline. I say you only got 6 spots in an Elimination Chamber match, all right? There's been more than 6 people who have been beaten by and fucked over by Roman Reigns and the bloodline. You can't fit them all in there. But that could be what the Chamber match is this year. Maybe they feel they don't need Roman on the show. All they need is a Chamber match to decide who wrestles him at WrestleMania. That, of course, being Cody Rhodes. So a lot of this still depends on Roman's status for that pay-per-view, but again, I mean, if you're gonna do only one, clearly it's gonna be Roman Reigns and Randy Orton. That's gonna be the match. We'll find out in 2 weeks. The lineup right now for New Year's Revolution, we have the triple threat to determine a number 1 contender. We have the U.S. title tournament finals with Kevin Owens and Santos Escobar. The winner gets Logan Paul. And we have Michin challenging Io Sky for the WWE Women's Championship. And they'll probably add, I guess Pete Dunne and a mystery partner are going to take on Pretty Deadly. Probably Sheamus. That could be his return. So that's 4 matches right there. They're loading up that show just like they're loading up the New Year's Day episode of Raw. Because we have Seth Rollins on that show defending the World Heavyweight title against Drew McIntyre. We have Rhea Ripley defending her title. And they're doing, I believe, are they doing Cody and Nakamura? Was that officially announced? I can't remember if they made that official or not. So anyway, that was SmackDown tonight. A newsworthy show. For a show where this time of year, usually it's taped. They phone it in. They do some holiday stuff. And there's not a lot going on. It was a pretty newsworthy episode, I thought, of SmackDown tonight. With some good action. Nothing great. I mean, if you didn't see any of the matches, look, Dragon Lee and Pete Dunne, good match. Kevin Owens and Carmelo Hayes, good match. Honestly, nothing I would say you have to go out of your way to watch. So I can't recommend that, but definitely some stuff going on. Here's the poll. 82% thumbs up for SmackDown. 17.8% thumbs down. People like SmackDown tonight. At Solomonster on Twitter. Let me know what you thought. 82% is a pretty strong score. Pretty strong for SmackDown. The goal for Be the Booker is, again, 400. We were at 300. So it looks like there will be no Be the Booker tonight. But I figured this was going to be a quiet night. I'm not surprised it's kind of quiet, though. But we got a bunch of messages here, which is good. So let's see what you guys are talking about. Jamie Dorsch, again, thank you, sir, for those 10 gifted memberships. I sure do appreciate that. Also, a $10 super chat from Jamie, who says, Happy Holidays to you and everybody else. What is your all-time favorite December WWE pay-per-view? I don't think I have one. I mean, I don't think I have an all-time favorite December show. They've done some in-your-house shows. I mean, I remember the Seasons Beatings match with Bulldog and Brett in '95. I couldn't tell you anything else about that show other than I think maybe Santa Claus was on the show. I don't remember much else about that one. I know there were a bunch of TLC pay-per-views. I don't know. There's honestly nothing that jumps out at me. It's certainly not December to dismember. That I can tell you. Wildbird, WWE's marketing and advertising department is ready for 2024. If I am AEW, I am making wholesale changes to my marketing and advertising department. That is from Wildbird. Happy holidays to you as well, sir. Also says, called it. Santos Escobar was going to recruit Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza. Says, I threw out the idea of Escobar recruiting Carrillo and Garza. Now it comes to reality. There you go. DEH Sires, clear that Endeavor is not lowballing contracts. Yeah, there was some concern about that, but so far, a lot of these contract renewals that we're hearing about, it looks like they're doling out money to people, which is good. Even though if you look at the money that WWE generates relative to the amount of money that the wrestlers get, it's still very low. But it's good that they're not lowballing people. The Real CS, I love how WWE are bringing back old pay-per-view names as TV specials. Yeah, they've been doing that with NXT for a while. Halloween Havoc, Vengeance. So yeah, now they're doing New Year's Revolution for SmackDown. I think it's cool. You may as well. They own the IP, right? They had No Mercy for an NXT show a few months ago. You own the IP. You may as well make use of it. Bernard Frederick. It's been a minute since I've done a super chat. I just want to say Merry Christmas and continue broadcasting great content. I will do so. I'll be here. Bernard, thank you. Merry Christmas to you as well. Prince Vegeta, I don't know what people see in Solo Sikoa. In my opinion, he is very one-dimensional. All he does is look angry and he yells before the finish, before hitting his finish. Solo is going to have to evolve as a character next year. I think that when he breaks away from Roman Reigns, and eventually he will end up on his own, I hope we get to see more of the Solo Sikoa that we had in NXT. In NXT, he was allowed to kind of speak more and show off a little more of his personality. That I would like to see more of from him as we get deeper into 2024, because I do agree that this character has to evolve at some point. And it might not be time yet. I think as long as he's still kind of in lockstep with Roman. But when that break eventually comes, I'd like to see him start to speak more and break out more on his own. So I agree with you on that. Wildbird, what are your thoughts on the big news in New Japan? Very shocking. Not something that I was expecting. I really would like to know what the kind of the genesis of all this was. If there was some business reason for it, if there was some other reason for it, I don't know. But I can't think of a better person to fill that spot than Tanahashi. Again, he's the ace. You know, he's the heart and soul of that company. Chris Miner. Can we have a Festivus-themed Be the Booker just this one time? One of the wrestlers you land on can air their grievances, and the main event is a feats of strength match. Hope you have a happy... Well, it doesn't look like we're doing Be the Booker tonight. I do appreciate the creativity. Damn it, Dan. $4.99. Have you seen the movie Black Christmas from 1974? It's one of the influences on John Carpenter's Halloween. Avoid the too awful remake. Believe it or not, even though I'm a horror guy, I have not seen Black Christmas. Never saw it. Samoan fan, why don't we see the atomic drop used anymore? Because what's the point? Nobody is going to sell it as well as Ravishing Rick Rude did. It pretty much peaked with him. Rob G, can't picture pre-dental work Roman being the tribal chief. I forgot about that. He did. He came back with the veneers. Paul Carpenter, SmackDown was real good to... LWO, he says. Legado World Order. Devin from NJ, what is a moment in wrestling history that Solomonster wishes he could have seen live? For me, it's either Mankind getting thrown off the Hell in a Cell or Big Show farting right in Disco Dipshit's face. It's definitely not that last moment. That's kind of weird. For me, it would be being in the Pontiac Silverdome when Hulk Hogan slammed the 828-pound Andre the Giant, who then died the next day. I do wish I was able to be in the crowd with like a dead-eye view of Hogan slamming Andre. I mean, that's just one of those... To be there live, like what a memory that would be. So I'm going to go with that. Alex Ali, WWE 2K23 predicted the future. If you remember in my rise, Santos was paired with Angel and Humberto. They were called Legado del Lotharios. I don't remember that. I guess I didn't play my rise mode. I didn't play it out enough, I guess. I kind of gave up on it thanks to Goldberg. Wildbird, good or bad, I will give the Holiday Havoc match the benefit of the doubt because it is the Christmas holidays. Also, Io Sky swagger is growing. Io's fantastic. Io has always had a swagger about her. Hydrograd with the 20 bucks. Hey, Hydrograd, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you. Not sticking around, but just wanted to stop by and leave a donation real quick. I turned 26 today and we'll be watching the new Iron Claw movie with a couple of friends tonight. Well, happy birthday, Hydrograd. I'll come back and watch this later. And let me know what you thought. I'm going to be seeing Iron Claw on Tuesday. Barry MK, who do you think was the better heel champion from 04 to 05? Triple H or JBL? I'm actually going to go with JBL. DEH, I think Tyler Bate is Butch's partner. That's interesting. That's true. Tyler Bate's been rumored for a main roster call-up. Tyler Bate and Butch. So you're looking at them as a new tag team, maybe? I'm still pulling for a heel turn in 2024 for Pete Dunne. I like that idea better. But I would not mind if Tyler Bate is his partner. I think Tyler Bate is fantastic. And again, I feel like he's kind of reached that point in NXT where, you know, what else are you going to do with him? Prince Vegeta, what's your favorite season or story arc of The Walking Dead? For me, it's got to be season 4. The Governor was a great villain. I love the Governor. Governor is my favorite of all the villains. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you on that. The Governor was great. I feel like there are people who hate on Negan and maybe dropped off the show when he hit. I like Negan, but the Governor, to me, I put up here at number 1. I enjoyed that character. Hey, M Soda. Thank you for the super chat. Bobby's World with a $5 super chat. Was Vince's first Jedi mind trick on his father? I seem to remember that Vince Sr. was not initially fond of the idea of selling to him. No, I don't think he wanted to. I think he knew what his son might do. And as Vince himself has said, if his father could see what he did, he would be rolling in his grave. He could see what his son did with his company. Even though he has turned the company into a multi-billion-dollar powerhouse, even Vince himself knows his father would not be very happy. The Juliet, Merry Christmas, he says to everybody. Merry Christmas to you as well. We got some late super chats coming in here, and then we're going to wrap things up. Samoan fan, what are your least favorite Christmas movies? My least favorite Christmas movies. I was going to give you two of my favorite Christmas movies. I don't know about least, but my favorite Christmas movies are Die Hard, which is a Christmas movie, and I gotta go with Jingle All the Way. I try to make sure I watch Jingle All the Way one time every year around this time of year, just like I do around Thanksgiving with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Gotta get me a Turbo Man. It's a lot easier for me to tell you what my favorite ones are than my least favorite. I don't go out of my way to watch Christmas movies, so I don't really have a list of the least favorite. Anis, do I think AOP might be part of the Bloodline in any way? By the way, new subscriber here. Anis, glad to have you. I do not know. I don't think AOP is going to have anything to do with the Bloodline. I think those are going to be two separate things. Wildbird says, to honor Macaulay Culkin. Oh, well, Home Alone's another favorite, by the way. How could I forget the quintessential Christmas film, Home Alone? To honor Macaulay Culkin around December, it's the good son scenario. Save one, let the other one go. JD McDonough or Wheeler Yuta? I don't know. I mean, I don't really care, frankly, for either one, but I'll go with JD McDonough. We got Brandon. That Brandon Vasquez, I believe it is. Who is someone who has not won the Royal Rumble that should have won the Royal Rumble? Well, there have been a lot of names I could probably think of over the years. It's kind of crazy that Chris Jericho, for all the accolades he has, that Jericho never won a Rumble. Came close in 2012. I know he and Sheamus were the last two. So I think Jericho would be on that list. CM Punk is another one. Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan. My God. Daniel Bryan. 2014, 2015. How did he not win at least one of those Royal Rumbles? He's got to be at the top of the list. So I think I would probably just end with him. I can't think of another example that made me as angry as that. He definitely should have won that Royal Rumble in 2014. And arguably, you could say 2015 too. Chris Miner, who should air grievances for Festivus, Punk or Tony Khan? Well, Punk would probably be more entertaining. I'll go with Punk. Speaking of which, Michael Darcy has just been banned from Collision. Still banning people. BW Rosas with the $5 super chat. Did I hear that the Bucks and Punk have signed lifetime NDAs about Brawl Out? Do I think there's any truth to that? Yeah, I mean, that's what Punk and Ace Steel's lawyers said. Stephen P. New is their attorney. He said that, I don't know if he said that about the Bucks. I know that he said that about Punk and about Ace Steel. They have signed lifetime NDAs, so they will never be able to discuss what happened at Brawl Out last year. However, he did say that Ace Steel's wife, I remember her name, Or maybe he mentioned the dog. Maybe it was Lucy the dog. No, his wife Lucy. Lucy, I'm thinking of Lucy the dog from the Stephanie Triple H Jericho storyline. Lucy, I believe, is the name of Ace Steel's wife, who was in the locker room at that time. Larry was the dog. Yeah, Larry didn't sign an NDA. So if Larry wants to talk about what happened, Larry can do so. But apparently Lucy did not sign an NDA. And so the attorney said if she ever, maybe one day if she wants to talk about it, she can. But no, that is true. Punk and Ace Steel are bound by lifetime NDAs. Michael Darcy with the $7. What is the New Year's Eve plans for the sound off? Is there another live countdown? Well, I'm so happy that you asked, because the plan is as follows. Since Raw and SmackDown are clip shows next week, everybody gets a break. No live streams on Monday or Friday. There will be a live stream next Wednesday. That's actually the next time I'll be live. Is for Dynamite on Wednesday, where we have the finals for each block, each group in the Continental Classic. So we're going to have a Gold League winner and a Blue League winner. And those two men will then wrestle at World's End. So I'll be live on Wednesday. I'll be live after World's End on Saturday next weekend. And I will be live on New Year's Eve. And what we're doing is the sound off usually drops on audio earlier in the day on Sunday. Instead, the sound off that day, episode 841, I'll be live on YouTube for episode 841 of the sound off that night. I'm figuring probably around 9:30, 10 o'clock, somewhere around there. And we're just going to carry it on into midnight. And we're probably going to be doing predictions that night for 2024. Because I usually do predictions every year. Look back at the ones from this past year, the ones I got right, the ones I got wrong, and then we do predictions for the new year. So that will be the sound off. So it's not two shows that day. The sound off will be live on video form on YouTube, and we will carry into midnight as we have done each of the last few years. You guys can ring in the new year with me. And so that is the plan. I hope that answers your question. And then the next day, on New Year's Day, I'll be live again because we have the first episode of Raw for 2024. And it's a big show. And I'll be live on YouTube that night as well. We've got Samoan fan who says, Jingle All the Way was Arnold's worst movie. No. You have terrible taste if you believe that that's Arnold's worst movie. I'm sure Arnold Schwarzenegger has done worse movies than Jingle All the Way. Jingle All the Way is great. What are you talking about? Dom Joseph with the $4.99 says, if Vince never came back from retirement, would the Elite be in WWE right now? No, I think they would have re-signed with AEW either way. I don't think Vince McMahon was much of a factor in what the Young Bucks ultimately would have decided to do. Because they were dealing with Triple H anyway, and I remember the first time they were very complimentary when they initially negotiated with Triple H many years ago. They got along very well. I think they were, I don't know if they were actively in conversations with him this time, but I'm sure they would have dealt with him and it would have been very respectful. But I think ultimately they would have stayed right where they are. We have got Wildbird, take a fireball shot with me, Solomonster. Well, I don't have fireball. Why don't you do 2 shots for me? Why don't you take 2 fireballs for me? How about that? Oh, End of Days. You know what? I forgot about that. That's right. End of Days. I saw that movie. That was the movie that Arnold promoted when he came to SmackDown in '99. Remember that? He was promoting the End of Days. So I saw that movie. Wasn't Gabriel Byrne in that movie? Yeah, I didn't like that movie. That's a worse movie than Jingle All the Way. The Winston Slip. Buy or sell WrestleMania 5 or WrestleMania 6? WrestleMania 6. Strictly for the Hogan Warrior main event. Actually, 2 things. Hogan Warrior main event, which as a kid was just epic. And the Demolition match with the Colossal Connection. Demolition won the tag belts for a third time. Place went nuts. And then we had the Andre Babyface turn. WrestleMania 6. Lord Vader. Watch the Rampage main event. What was the Rampage main event? I don't know what the Rampage main event was. Base Beer is God of Seduction. Sound off brought to you by Wooings and Woo Energy. Yeah, I saw he's hawking Wooings now. He's got something else too. Somebody find the information for me. He apparently has a crypto coin. There's some kind of Ric Flair crypto coin now. It's all a scam anyway. All that crypto crap.
With a tear in my eye.
There he is. Wooings. How about the timing on that? Ric Flair pops up on my... This guy's everywhere. This guy is everywhere. Vikingo against Taurus was the main event on Rampage. Did they do the thing that they did at the Ring of Honor show where Black Taurus stood outside the ring and waited for like 30 seconds as Vikingo tried to balance himself on the ropes and do a dive? So Taurus just stood there outside. Did they do that in the main event tonight again? Because that was pretty fucking bad. Chris Miner, buy or sell one-night tournaments. Survivor Series Deadly Game or WrestleMania 4. Oh, man. WrestleMania 4 was a bloated tournament. I mean, they had 16 men. Well, I guess, you know what? I guess they had 16 in both, right? Both those tournaments were 16-man brackets. Honestly, I thought both tournaments were pretty crap. I'm not going to lie. The WrestleMania 4 tournament is memorable for the final with Savage and DiBiase, but it really was not good. And I know people look back fondly on that Deadly Game pay-per-view. It was right smack in the middle of the Attitude Era and that whole period. I will say, yeah, Survivor Series 98, the Giant Skull set is one of my favorites. I always love that. The tournament itself, though, it really isn't very good. But if I had to choose between the two, I would go with Deadly Game. I would go with the Deadly Game tournament if you make me choose. But honestly, I didn't think either one of those tournaments was that good. I really didn't. I mean, I know they had the story with The Rock. He came in as a babyface. He went out as a heel. But as a tournament with all the short matches and everything, and you know what I remember the most, other than the main event finish from that tournament? I do remember in the Austin Mankind match when Shane McMahon came in to count the fall and he stopped at 2 and he looked at Austin and he flipped him off. And then Austin slowly stalked Shane into the corner and Shane backed up. And Austin was waiting for him. I think he was waiting maybe for Mankind to attack him. So he had to like hold up and he's just kind of standing there waiting. I remember that. I remember Mankind, I think his pants fell down around his ankles as well. I don't know. That whole thing was a mess. Draven Lord. Who wins? Perk Angle against coked up Shawn Michaels. Well, coked up Shawn Michaels wouldn't lay down for anybody. So by virtue of that alone, I think he was a better politician than Kurt Angle was. I would say Shawn Michaels wins. Now, if you want to know who wins in a real fight between Perk Angle and coked up Shawn Michaels, it's going to be Perk Angle 10 times out of 10. Kurt would have fucking tied him up into a pretzel and beaten his ass. But who wins the match? It's Shawn Michaels. Shawn was not losing to Kurt Angle back then. We are at 377 likes here on the stream. And because it is the holiday season, I will break one of my own rules. And I will say, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the Booker.
I shouldn't be doing this. But Santos Solomonster, it's my gift to all of you. The gift of Be the Booker. Let's do it. Let's do it a special holiday edition. Book some matches. How about that? All right. Let's begin here with Tag Team Be the Booker. Even though you have failed me tonight, I will do this for you anyway. This is my Festivus gift to all of you. We begin with William Regal and Tajiri, or as Steve Austin used to call him, Tajiri. William Regal and Tajiri, the former Raw Tag Team Champions. Stepping into the ring with the American males, Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Scotty Riggs. American males, American males, American males, American males, American males, American males. All right, women's Be the Booker. Let's go. This party keeps on going here. We keep going. Begin with Rhea Ripley. Boy, did she look different during her days in NXT. She still had the blonde hair back then. Rhea Ripley. It's a hell of a choice. I like where this is going. Rhea Ripley going to go one-on-one with Kairi Sane. Fuck yeah. Rhea Ripley and Kairi Sane is a match that I would love to see. David against Goliath. But I think that would be a great match. And now, book ourselves a main event. We begin with Walter. That's not Gunther, that's Walter. That's who that is. Actually, that was taken from the night that he made his debut in NXT UK. We have Walter. Who is Walter going to be stepping into the ring with? Let's find out. Let's get a little drum roll action going. Walter against Minoru Suzuki. Oh boy. Walter and Minoru Suzuki. Let's see here. We got 120, 40, 60, 80, 100. Take my fucking money. Hell yes. Hell yes. That is what I call a main event. Oh, man. Now I'm kind of disappointed that we're not going to get to see it. How's that for a main event? Man, that's great. I'm glad we did this now because we booked a nice little show there for ourselves. Not a huge fan of that tag team match, but I'm a huge fan of that main event. Pray for the chest skin. There wouldn't be any skin left. You'd see the epidermis. You'd see all the underlying layers. There'd be no skin. There'd be no flesh. It would be like raw meat. You know how many capillaries or maybe capillaries were up here. You know how many blood vessels would be burst in a match like that? My God, it hurts just to think about it. Could we get Walter against Gunther on Be the Booker? I believe so. I think I have a more recent image. I think I have a more recent image of him. I'm not sure. We might be able to though. Draven Lord. Your thoughts on this match? Early 20s Andre the Giant against WrestleMania 25 Undertaker. I think that'd be an incredible match. Andre in his youth was very, very agile. And he bumped around, he moved around, he was very quick. He was very, very lanky. That version of Andre against The Undertaker would have been incredible. And Near says, you're the man. No, you're the man, Near. And I hope you're doing well. Thank you for dropping by. Always good to hear from you. Wildbird says, Walter versus Suzuki. Solomonster, JD, and Kevin Kelly on commentary. We don't need Kevin Kelly. Get Kevin Kelly out of there. We don't need him. We'll do fine on our own. We don't need the help. Base Beerus, who would you rather take a bump from? Nia Jax or Shotzi? I don't take bumps. I book matches. I make important decisions. I don't take bumps. I sure as hell wouldn't take a bump from Nia Jax. And with Shotzi, I mean, as long as I wear a helmet, I feel like I'd be okay. Chris Miner. Gunther against Minoru Suzuki. Feats of strength. Frank Costanza would be proud. A Festivus miracle. Base Beer says Sid is the man. That's what he used to call himself. He used to say, who's the man? Everybody in the crowd would say Sid. But yeah, seriously, if you never had a chance to see early, I'm talking like early years, Andre the Giant, or like Andre in Japan or anything like that, there's footage on YouTube. You gotta do yourself a favor and go check that out. It's like a totally different human being. It's really a shame what happened to him later in life. Well, I want to take a moment here to wish everybody a very happy holiday, whatever you may be celebrating, but a very Merry Christmas, Festivus. And I'm going to be back with you live on Wednesday. Not Monday, but Wednesday after Dynamite. But first, we have episode 840 of The Sound Off dropping later on Sunday on Christmas Eve. Later in the day, episode 840 will be dropping, and it will include the news of the week, including tonight's breaking news, if you missed it, about New Japan Pro Wrestling. They have a new president. His name is Hiroshi Tanahashi. That is not a storyline position. That is a real position. We'll talk about the news of the week, and also I'm going to be ranking my top 20 matches of 2023. And also talking about some of the biggest news stories of the year. So it's going to be a fun show. I hope you will tune in and make sure that you are subscribed to the show. It will be in your subscription boxes. It'll be in your feed, however you subscribe, whatever platform you use. Spreaker, the free Spreaker app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Google Podcasts, which, by the way, be aware, if you listen to the show on Google Podcasts is shutting down as of April of next year. And they're going to be migrating all of the shows over to YouTube Music. So you'll be able to listen to the podcast there. If you don't want to use YouTube Music, just use any of those other platforms that I mentioned. But that is a good FYI for anyone who listens to my podcast or anyone's podcast through Google Podcasts. April 2nd of 2024, they are officially sunsetting the app. It will no longer push new content out to the app as of that date. Google's been shutting down a lot of different things. As long as they don't shut down YouTube, I'm okay. They shut down YouTube, we're in real trouble. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Be well, stay safe. Again, have a very Merry Christmas for those of you who are celebrating, and I will see you for episode 840 of The Sound Off this Sunday. Until then, take care, guys. Hey, look at that. We're only 4 likes away from 400. We may hit the goal after all. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up.